Welcome everyone to Coach's Corner, our ESPN Esports Call of Duty League program where we talk to the coaches around the CDL, get into their minds, understand why they got into coaching and how exactly the philosophies and the strategies in which they coach their teams to success. And the Florida Mutineers have experienced success recently, winning the Dallas home series. They were at home watching all the action in the Chicago home series. Joining me now is the head coach of the Florida Mutineers, Atura. Thank you very much for joining me, Atura. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a lot. I've been looking forward to this conversation because there's so many things to dive into with the Florida Mutineers. Lots of, it's been a roller coaster ride for Florida, culminating with a championship, and of course the season goes on. But first, let me ask. I know that a lot of teams, some teams and players are scattered across the country. Obviously, we're in an extraordinary time right now. Can you tell me where you are and where your team is?
My team's a little bit scattered right now. I'm in Florida along with Frosty and Mock, and Pharaoh is in DC, Caesar Skies is in Chicago, and Colt is in Texas. Havoc is in...
Wow. Okay, so you have you might
Yeah, we're
have
pretty we're
the
pretty
most
scattered.
scattered team of the entire CDL, like multiple locations and players across different time zones, etc.
Yeah, I feel like the only team aside from us that's really like more scattered is probably...
Okay, fair enough. So how do you how much does that factor into obviously scheduling aside and things like that, the actual gameplay when you have that many players scattered across, how does that factor into online play?
Um, Honestly, I feel like it factors pretty well for us. I feel like there's always just gonna be one host that just kind of favors at least someone on our team very highly, so it always gives them a chance to go off. But everyone on our team just has pure talent, so I think they'll do it regardless of what internet or host we get.
So obviously, we'll dive into the Dallas home series in a second where Florida was victorious. You had a chance to watch the Chicago home series, Dallas defeating Atlanta there. What were some of your takeaways from the home series this weekend?
Um, Honestly, a lot faster gameplay. You can definitely tell that transition from LAN online. The game is just so much faster. You're literally watching like kill records being broken left and right. Like the game is just so much faster compared to a LAN series. Like teams are playing slower. Teams are like second guessing, battling their lives. Online, it's just like go, 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 and just play at the fastest pace you can.
Did I know that some people had some complaints about the gameplay in Dallas? Maybe there weren't enough servers, dedicated servers put in place, but then CDL put out the blog saying that they've increased. It seemed like people were happier with the gameplay this weekend. From your trained eye, did it look like at least the majority of issues were fixed?
They did seem like that actually because last week or during our event, there was a lot of issues where just every series would probably take maybe a 40 to 45-minute break between every series because they were trying to figure out which data server to use. And this, honestly, this weekend went by pretty smooth. Every series, one after the other. I'm pretty sure there was at the longest maybe like a 10-15-minute break between each series, so it wasn't that bad. Huge
The
improvement.
final, yeah, the final between Dallas and Atlanta, a lot of people had predicted that that was what would happen. Atlanta's on a roll. Dallas, the scrim gods, as everyone calls them, even Clayster putting up the router afterwards. What did you make of that series? Like, are Dallas, even in the Florida camp, do you guys view Dallas as the team to beat, particularly online?
Yeah, they are. We scrim Dallas a lot, along with Atlanta and Chicago. Like we play all the best teams consistently, and based on our scrims the past 2 weeks, it seemed like Dallas was probably the best team leading up to that event, and they proved
So
it.
yeah, definitely. I mean, they do have that victory there. What about how your philosophy on obviously you're going to scrim every team in the league, right? What I know is that usually if you're in the same group as a team, you're going to try to avoid scrimming in the week of, right? But what is your philosophy as it pertains to which teams to scrim and when to scrim? Is there a formula that you use, or is there a strategy that you use to optimize your team's performance?
So I usually try to book our scrims around more of like the top level, like the top four, top five teams, so we consistently scrim them the most throughout the week. And then I'll make sure we probably play 3 scrim blocks a day, so make sure we're consistently playing. Like the guys love playing the game right now, which is an amazing feeling because in the beginning of the year, obviously it wasn't like no one felt the same way. But now everyone's just grinding, playing the game all day, and honestly, we really look like huge. Well, I wouldn't say dark horse because obviously we have one event, but I still think we're dark.
What changed? Like what is there anything specific that changed from then to now that made the players enjoy the game more? Was it just a championship win? Like what do you attribute it to?
Um, I think it all started with the addition of Farah. I feel like he just brought so much energy and excitement to the team and so much knowledge to where we learned the game very, very quickly with him. And he just became a solid, or more than solid, became a very good team, in my opinion,
So
in a
let's
matter of like a
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, that's obviously a major change, right? I mean, Pristini was there. We saw the matchup in Atlanta, brother versus brother, Florida making it to the final. And then Faro comes in, not necessarily when people would have predicted a change to be made coming off of a finals appearance, but as much as you can tell us, what led to that decision?
I mean, at the end of the day, it was Preston's decision to step down, and we need a last-second fill-in for the Los Angeles event, and we were happy enough to get Farrow literally 24 hours. So we scrimmed once with him, literally 6 maps, and then went to the LA. We didn't do bad. We actually had a really close first series with Atlanta. We lost 3-0, but every map went down to the wire. And we beat New York while we were there, but that was all we came out with, 10 points.
Is how much was Faro on the radar before even the season started or even before you had to make this decision?
He wasn't on the radar at all, actually. It was literally like, Preston doesn't know if he's coming to the event, and I'm pretty sure it was one of our players, I think it was Frost, he was like, honestly, let's play with Pharaoh. And I was like, honestly, that sounds like a good idea. And I mean, we're here now.
So it was literally just a suggestion from one of your players who said,
Yep,
"Hey, give this guy a try." Wow. And he
it's
fit right
crazy.
in, right? I mean,
He
like
fit, he
he
fit
had a
right in.
yeah. Yeah, didn't he? Like he had an amazing Dallas home series. Many people I called him the MVP of the tournament. I mean, he had a
He deserved it.
fantastic he had a fantastic weekend. Like what was it about him and his play that just clicked with the team?
Um, I feel like, I mean, it's really hard to really say. Like, Jay just brings so many qualities to the team. Like, he has moments where he has so much leadership, and there's times where he, in general, just takes over. Like, there's this thing we bring up sometimes in game where players go demon mode, and that phrase is when someone literally just stops talking for a good 30 to 45 seconds and goes into their state of flow and just takes over on a map. And that's something Jay is just really good at doing. He's just good at being a force on the map, and he's such a good player. I'm lucky to have him.
He is, yeah, definitely has, I guess, improved the fortunes of Florida. I mean, I wouldn't say, yeah, like, I mean, it's just such a crazy situation. And then, of course, I have to ask this question. I mean, of course, you have Prestini now, and people are wondering, well, what's his future going to be like? Is he going to stay on the team? Is he going to look for another team? Like, what can you tell us about Prestini and Florida in particular? Like, will we see him play some games on the main roster? Is he a sub? Like, what is his official status, I guess?
I can't go too deep into detail, but for the time being, he will stay on the roster, like on the bench for the time being. We'll kind of just let time go by, and we'll see if things come up. But yeah, for the time being, he's just currently on the bench for us,
Okay,
and
so
we plan to keep
he's
him there.
Okay, so he's on the bench for now for the foreseeable future. And fair, I mean, this sounds like a silly question, but just to tie a bow on it, Farrow has definitely earned a starting spot for the foreseeable future, right? For the remainder of the season, basically.
Yes,
Okay, cool. So if okay, so yeah, I mean that's just for posterity there.
I believe he's earned
So
it for the time being. Obviously, things can happen, but for right now, I believe he's earned a spot on the team.
So the switch to online, obviously it's been a couple tournaments now, but what sort of when you were going through this and when you were game planning with your team and preparing for even the Dallas home series, what were some of the things you were telling your players? How were you game planning this? How were you changing your approach as opposed to a LAN?
Honestly, our game plan was a lot different from other teams. Like, so we played during that stretch where, the whole outbreak happened and teams were taking like days off because they weren't sure when the league was coming back. We kind of came back from the LA event, first day back, and we literally played and didn't stop. We played every single day leading up until the Dallas, which is probably a good 30 days in a row nonstop. So we put in the extra effort and it actually showed.
It seems like there's a good vibe among your team right now. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I feel like our team is very vibey.
Yeah, good. That's good to hear. Here's an interesting thought. So you guys win this home series, right? And rankings come out, and I'll even put ESPN Esports in this as well, okay? I'm not discounting us in this question. People still talk about the top teams in the league, and keep in mind, this is days after Florida wins the home series. But still, the top teams being discussed, or at least the top three, do not include Florida for the majority. Did you guys find that offensive? Like, what was your reaction to hearing all of that?
I mean, honestly, it wasn't that surprising, obviously, just because it was an online event, and we haven't really showcased what we really can do with Jay. Like, we had won that one event, but we didn't have that good of an event prior to that. So we really want to showcase how good we really are at this sort of event next week.
If you had it your way, would you have participated in the Chicago event?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The guys were actually just so upset we didn't get to participate, unfortunately. We were literally every team's warm-up scrim leading up to the event. Like, we scrimmed Dallas before their match yesterday. Like, we were just warm-up, pretty much warm-up pals for every team.
When you were scrimming with all of the teams leading up to Chicago, did you guys feel like Dallas were the favorites going into the weekend?
I think it was 50-50 between them and Atlanta. I kind of had Atlanta taking it, but I'm not surprised by the outcome by any means.
Fair enough. So you guys have the next home series, which will be May 8th to 10th. I guess, I mean, obviously this is all online, so there's not really like a home series sort of feel to it because it's online, even though you guys are attributed to it, right? Is there anything, even in an online format, that you have to do on top of it because it is your home series? Or is it just you guys just treat it like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, are there
Yeah,
any extra preparations? Like, is there
I don't,
anything
I
online
don't,
that you
I
have to
don't
do?
really think like us, like the players or coaching staff, really have any involvement when it comes on to that stuff. But I could be wrong. I'll probably find out this week, if anything, next week. We might have to probably do a couple extra interviews, if anything. But other than that, I'm pretty sure nothing else or any extra things we have to do for that event for us.
So the teams involved are Atlanta, Paris, London, Optic Gaming, New York, Toronto, and Minnesota. Atlanta and Minnesota, obviously, top four teams, top five teams, let's say. And you guys have a lot of history with them as well, right? Got Minnesota, you've faced Atlanta. So let's start with Atlanta because they seem to be a team that has your number at least this season so far. So when you go into a series like this, and I believe you guys are in different groups, so maybe there's the possibility that you will not be facing each other. But how do you digest and game plan after two series against Atlanta, one even in the semifinal, or in the final, I should say, where they were able to convincingly win? As a coach, how do you take all of that and work towards a future matchup?
I mean, honestly, just to point out all the flaws and mistakes we made from our prior matches and kind of input it into the next time we do play. Obviously, the game has changed a ton since we've played them last, and we've learned so much. So, honestly, the only thing I really want to tell my guys leading into like a series versus them is just play our own game. Atlanta really likes playing to like the enemy team's like competition. So, like, if the other team plays scrappy, they'll play scrappy. If they play heavy rotation, they'll play heavy rotation. Like, um, Atlanta's a really weird team, but they're very fast. So most of the times you do have to match them and their pace if you want to beat them, and that's why Dallas has played them so well. Or Minnesota is actually a very good fundamental team, which is the reason they were able to slow them down. I feel like there's many ways to beat Atlanta. It just comes down to just playing your own game when you actually play them and play with confidence.
And then you have Minnesota as well, and that's actually your first matchup on the Friday at 8:30 Eastern. How do you game plan for these? Seem to be very competitive matchups and very fun as well. How do you game plan for a team like Minnesota?
Just VOD review. We scrimmed them a few times, like immediately right after the event, so we can watch those VODs back, look back at what we really did wrong, look back at what they do, their tendencies, and kind of just look for those loopholes when we play them next and abuse them.
Let's talk about you a little bit, Atura. You've been a coach for a little while with a couple of teams. When did you decide that coaching was for you? Like, when did you make the decision that coaching is something you wanted to pursue?
So last year in Black Ops 4, I was competing in the like the top amateur like bracket. I was like one of those players that were on like the borderline of like going pro and like being an amateur, I was just like right there. I was like almost there, but I just couldn't get there. But so I teamed with Dylan Envoy, the player for Chicago Huntsmen, and so I was an ex-teammate of him, and he was on the team Midnight Esports, which consisted of Parzelian, Jet Li, um, Llama God, and one more. But yeah, so he invited me to like he asked me if I wanted to coach their team, and I took that offer, and I haven't looked back since. I participated on teams like UYU. I was
Mhm.
also part of Midnight, and I went from UYU to Florida over the off season.
As a player, were you the type of guy that would try and lead the team? Were you leading in comms, or like what kind of player were you as it pertains to like coaching qualities?
I could definitely say I was a vocal leader. I was making sure everyone was doing the right stuff on the map, making sure everyone took the routes needed, everyone was talking, communicating. So that's why I really like jumped to this coaching role so fast. Like I knew I had the capability and like all the qualities to be a great and good coach. And I'm really proud of myself and honestly how far I've become so far.
That's awesome. Did you take any inspirations from any coaches, whether they're in Call of Duty or not?
Um, not really, honestly. I kind of just work around myself. There's coaches from time to time I'll ask them like any hints on like what they do that I can improve on or just well, a couple little things from here and there, but other than that, kind of just my own thing.
What is your coaching philosophy? How do you like to coach? You know, some coaches are very loud and very in your face. Other coaches are very
Um,
laid back and let people grow.
I don't know.
What is your style?
I feel I'm very laid back. Like the most I'll do, I'll criticize like our teammates after every map, like on a thing or two they did wrong, and then I might like help players like some situations or things they don't understand. But like other than that, I'm a really laid back guy. Like if people want to talk to me or need to talk to me, like I'm always here to talk to them. I'm a really big mediator too, just because this is Call of Duty. Like there's a lot of conflicts that happen in between maps and games. Like my job just to make sure like everyone gets along and just does their job correctly and has a good time. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's a game and everyone has to enjoy it. And what a better way or time to do it than now?
Yeah, exactly. How would you describe how your players like to be coached?
Um, I feel like a lot more laid back, not so aggressive. I feel like they do actually like enjoy a coach like me rather than like some like aggressive coach, like a Bill Belichick type of coach, where they're kind of just like always like on you. Like I understand like there is times where you have to be hard on players, but I feel like as long as you're just like if you're good friends with them, like they'll come to you and they'll always want to talk over stuff and they'll always want to get better if they're cool and they have a good relationship. So at the end of the day, like as long as I have a good relationship with all my players, I feel like there's a good standing ground, and I feel like our players and our team will just keep improving.
Let's talk about just the league itself. Take it back to when the decision was made to go online for the rest of the season. What was your reaction to that?
Um, it was I was a bit disappointed honestly, because I along with like probably every single player in the league just enjoys going to all these events, meeting the fans. Just the LAN environment is just so crazy and intense, and the feeling is literally insane. But yeah, I'm really gonna miss the events. It was unfortunate that this whole predicament happened, but as long as everyone's safe, that's all that matters with the outcome.
A lot of the talk like early on when the league went online in the COD community was, oh, this is going to ruin the integrity of the league, or this is not going to be able to be pulled off. Based on what you saw this past weekend with the adjustments that were made by the league, the improvements in technology, dedicated servers, etc., do you believe, is that still the prevalent thought, or do you think that people are turning the corner now and thinking, no, we do have a chance to make this right?
I feel like people are just starting to get over it. They're like, okay, honestly, we just be grateful for what we have. Let's just improve and let's actually try to win these events. And honestly, as every week or every event goes by, like the dedicated servers or just the production, everything is just going to keep enhancing and improving as time goes by. So either way, like by the time the end of the year, unfortunately if it's online, I feel like it'll be ran beautifully.
One thing I like to ask coaches is, especially in this time, what kind of, if anything, what kind of things you put in place for your team as they're competing? I remember the first weekend, people were AFK when they were on camera or they were eating or whatever the case may be, right? Is there any like sort of rules or any hopes that you ask your team of your team and your players during play? Like, do you give them a dress code? Do you tell them, hey, don't eat on camera? Like, is there anything that you tell them, even little things during competition?
Well, there actually is a lot of like small rules during competition. Like there's certain things you can't drink, certain like clothes you can't wear. There's like a lot of things you can. Wait, are you talking about like in tournament play or just like in scrims?
In tournament play. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
like, is there anything that you specifically
Oh, just
say
me
to
in
your
general.
players? Yeah, not league-wide, more so like what you tell your Florida players.
Honestly, the only thing I ever tell my guys like after every map, before every map, I just literally tell them to just um play their game and have fun. Like that's pretty much all I do.
Okay.
I really try not to like overwhelm them or anything. I just want them to play their own game because at the end of the day, it's just about staying composed and playing your game.
So let's go back to Farrell. Let's go back to the team. Farrell comes in, team wins a championship. Actually, let me ask you that. Do you consider these online tournament wins championships?
Um, at first I was like, I'm not sure, but honestly now I do. I definitely
Okay.
for now. Like it's the only thing. It's the only thing anyone can win, and I believe if everyone is trying their hardest, their 110%, I feel like it should count as a trophy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I feel like I wonder why this debate still like this is such a hotly contested debate in the
I
community.
mean, the thing is, it's weird just because there's only 8 teams at each event, so it's just like everyone's just like, not all four of the best teams are always there at every event because it's like it's going to be hard to get all top four and all top five teams at every single event due to the 8 team layout. But I mean, as long as like 2 or 3 of the teams are there and you're able to like consistently beat those teams, I feel like if you just do that, you do prove that you are one of the best.
You look at your roster, you got, Havoc and Mox and Skies and Frosty, now Pharaoh. Like, when you think about the transition to online, who are some of the players that you've been impressed by, even if the numbers don't show it? I mean, obviously, a lot of players will contribute in ways that the statistics don't show, or maybe things that the untrained eye doesn't see. What are some of the things that you've been impressed by from your players? And if you want to call out a specific play or a specific player, especially from the last series.
Um, I would have to shout out probably honestly Havoc. He's grown literally tremendously as a player. He's honestly one of the smartest players on the team, and he's always thinking ahead. He's like one of those guys that if we're ever in a like sticky situation, he's always one of the guys to get us out. Like it sounds kind of weird as it is, like because it's like COD and hardpoint, but like there is times where you get trapped really bad in this game, and he's always just that one guy that just gets us out and literally saves the game for us.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he's shown us that a few times at the last event, and I honestly, actually I don't want to jinx it, but I really I'm really excited for us at the next Florida event.
Yeah, I will ask about the Florida event and preparation there, but it's interesting, like what coaches look for, right? Like oftentimes we may just go by like the casual fan or even the media will just go by the numbers, right? Like here's their KDA or whatever. The reason I asked is because it was spawned by a tweet from Major Maniac who had to defend himself on social media, right? Saying, hey, I am very knowledgeable about this game and I do things that you may not see that help my team. So it's cool that you gave credit where credit is due to your players
Yeah,
there because
this
oftentimes
this
we may not see it.
yeah, this game's very complex. Like you realize when there's 5 people on the like it's 5v5 gameplay. There's always someone on the map that has to do something extra to make sure their team is like holding spawns correctly. Like this game's very complex in a way because there hasn't been any COD like this. Like the way the spawn system is, the way everything is, it's just totally different. So you have to play it a different way. So that's why, like, I mean, you can't really hit on anyone that's really having like a game where they're like 9 and 10 or 9-11, and like someone is like 35 and like 12. It's just because they're just doing their job on the map. Like if they're winning, they're obviously doing their job correctly. It just gives that guy who's getting all those kills just honestly more kills to get in a lane that they're cutting. So at the end of the day, it's just everyone's doing their job, and you can't really hit on anyone for not performing at a superstar caliber like stat line.
The spawn system seems to be what people complain about a lot, if not the most. I always see these GIFs online of where people are spawning after they get eliminated, and it's just ridiculous. Like, it just seems very odd and erratic and unorthodox as to where they end up spawning. What do you make of it, and how do you take that information and help your team better that situation, especially in competitive play?
Well, at the beginning of the game, it was kind of just, it was very frustrating and annoying. Like, spawn system was very hard to just, like, understand, and people were spawning right next to you in front of you, and you're just like, what's going on? What is this? And I would watch the mini-map because I would codcast our scrims, and I would just look at it, and I'm just like, it's like, whoa, like, what's going on? Like, spawns are just everywhere. But now, obviously, we're like a few months into the game, and we come down to a point where everyone understands how to play the game, and everyone just learns the spawns, and it's just, I feel like, I forgot who it was, but someone found out how the spawn system works, and it's just a quadrant system. So there's like 4 quadrants, and that's just how the spawn system is. So like obviously there's like a line like this, and someone could be literally right in front of you and spawn there, just because that's how the spawn system works. It's never been like that in any COD, but it's just been like that in this COD. Which honestly I don't think it's that bad. Like after getting used to it, I think the spawn system's not as bad as others make it out to be, and I think others will agree.
All right, last question for you. The next home series, the Florida Mutineers are hosting it, quote unquote, the next online home series. That'll be May 8th to 10th. The teams involved are Atlanta, Paris, London, Optic Gaming LA, New York, Toronto, Minnesota, and of course, the Florida Mutineers. Florida faced Minnesota first. So you look at that group of teams, you look at your group in this tournament. How do you prepare for it? What teams, if whatever you can tell us, what teams are you looking to scrim? What specifics are you looking to work on as you go into your Florida home series?
We're probably gonna look forward to screening probably a lot of Dallas leading up to this event since they won't be there, and we think they're probably some of the best competition to play. So we'll probably consist of playing them a lot leading up to this event, and then probably just a lot of VOD review. Or probably not too much VOD review, but a decent amount of VOD review just to understand how the team plays and their consistencies and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just play with our heads high, keep playing like we did at the last event, and show out.
Well, Florida were champions the last time they competed in Dallas. They hope to repeat again here in their own home series. Atura joining us, the head coach of the Florida Mutineers on Coach's Corner, an ESPN Esports Call of Duty League program. Atura, thank you very much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody else, we have a program called Search and Destroy every single Wednesday here at twitch.tv/ESPN Esports. That is our weekly ESPN Call of Duty League program. Myself, Emily Rand, and Katie Bedford get you caught up on all things CDL. We'll be breaking down the Chicago home series on Wednesday. Until then, we'll see you next time.